Our final storyteller comes from the 2nd Maintenance Group. Please welcome Master Sergeant Jeremy Reyna.
Morning. I'd like to take a minute to have everybody stop and think for a second how they would feel or how they would react to finding out that someone they loved or that someone that was an immediate family member was suddenly diagnosed with a terminal illness. Think about how you're going to go through the day-to-day motions of living your normal life while processing this information. My name is Master Sergeant Jeremy Reyna. I'm a crew chief from the 2nd Maintenance Squadron. I'm a very lucky man to be married to my wife Tammy, to be the father of 2 little girls, Liliana and Jolie. In fact, I'm here to tell you our story about our little girl Jolie and how she pretty much shaped who we are right now. Jolie was born December 29, 2009 in Tucson, Arizona. She was born 6 weeks premature, and despite being premature, everything went well with the birth. That being said, as the nurses giving her first bath, she started to have problems breathing. And she stopped breathing for a moment, but then recovered on her own. Despite the fact that she recovered, she actually warranted to go ahead and put her into the NICU, the intensive care unit. And she was there for about 4 weeks. In this time frame, she never had another incident after that. But no one could ever explain why that happened, what happened at all. Why did this happen to begin with? No one could figure it out. So 4 weeks in the hospital for a baby, with a brand new baby, is a tough situation, and I wish that upon no one. But as concerned as we were more excited about getting her home. So once we couldn't figure out anything was going on, figured it was a one-time thing, all right, let's get her home. In parenting, there's a golden rule that says that when it comes to developmental progress, you don't ever compare siblings. They don't ever develop the same way. Well, Jolie developed way slower than her sister Liliana did on every front. And because of that, we were paying more attention. When she was 18 months old, she actually she had an absent, or her face kind of checked out, and my wife noticed that she was kind of completely gone for a moment. So being a prior nurse, she immediately took her to the ER so we could kind of look at it for seizures. While we were in this hospital stay, the MRI there was an MRI accomplished, and it pulled back that there was a white spot in the back of her brain. Once again, no one understands why this is happening, what that even is, or what it could possibly be. The best response we got was that the myelin, which is the fluid that surrounds the brain, is constantly developing till the age of 2. And this is something that she could probably outgrow, or, I mean, we don't know what it is to begin with, so we don't really know what's going to happen, but the only thing we can really do is monitor it. Now, that was pretty much all that my wife really needed. Her mother's intuition has been firing from the beginning, but this was what she needed to know, to be like, all right, you know what, something is going on with my daughter, and now it's time to figure out what it is. To add more stress to that, the Air Force was telling me at this time that I was going to be required to cross-train, so I was working on fighters, now I'm coming over to bombers, and we were going to be moving here to Barksdale. The MRI was enough to show that we needed a neurologist to be involved from that point forward, to kind of figure out what was going on. As Jolie progressed through the time, throughout the rest of the her evaluations, everything was fine, or she was checking off the way she was supposed to as far as the neurologist is concerned. But she could see that there was still something going on that we couldn't explain. So she wanted to stay involved. And in fact, right the week before we PCS'd here, she recommended that we have a genetics test done. So had the genetics test done, but it'd be months before we figure out what happens, or what the results would be, because it takes time. Although we were excited to be coming here at Barksdale, I was concerned for 2 reasons. One, I didn't want to be a Staff Sergeant 1 level, and 2, because I didn't want to start all over with Jolie's medical conditions and trying to figure out what's going on. So, if you're not aware, there's not many neurologists or pediatric neurologists here in this local area. When we PCS'd here, we were told that if we wanted to see one here in Bossier, it'd be about 6 months after arriving on station, minimum. So, not wanting to wait, my wife went to Monroe, because that was the next place that was the closest place for a pediatric neurologist. Go to Monroe, the doctor evaluates my daughter, looks her up and down and says, daughter's fine, I don't see anything. So We weren't happy with the response, so at that time, we pushed for a second opinion, which TRICARE acknowledged, and TRICARE said, okay, but the stipulation for this is you need to go to New Orleans to be seen. My wife's originally from Dallas, so we were trying to push back on that, saying, well, how about we go to Cook, so this way, one, it's a great hospital, two, if for some reason something goes on, then we could have Liliana stay with her family down there, and everything would kind of work itself out from there. TRICARE says no, out of network. Okay, we go back and forth about this for a while, trying to say, hey, look, it'd be better in everyone's best interest. It would save the Air Force money, so on and so forth. And the agreement was that, okay, well, look, if you guys go to New Orleans for one appointment and just try it out, then if it doesn't work out, we will do what we can to help you get to Cook. Fair enough. So we take that trip to New Orleans and go down and see the neurologist down there, and come to find out, the doctor says the same thing as the doctor in Monroe. My daughter seems to be fine. I don't see anything wrong with her. In fact, I think you guys are looking for something to be wrong with her. Okay, so 2 doctors now, subject matter experts, that are paid to tell us these things, that are paid to evaluate and know what's going on, are now telling us that everything is okay with our daughter. I'm starting to kind of trying to come to terms with this, because I can see something's going on, but obviously these guys are the experts. They know what's going on. My wife's not so as agreeable with it. We were at lunch in between the appointments. So the good thing about this doctor's appointment was we were supposed to see a pediatric geneticist a few months later, and he saw that in the system when he was looking through it. Well, he managed to get us in because we had already driven so far to get down there as it was. He said, well, you know what, let me see if I can get you in to see him, because I don't want to have you take another trip to come down here a few months later. We'll just see if we can get you in now. And it worked out. So we were able to see him after lunch, this next appointment after lunch. My wife and I are at lunch before we go to this next appointment, and she looks at me, and we're trying to process what just happened, and she says, Jeremy, you're gonna have to commit me, because I know something's wrong with Jolie, but at the same time though, if another doctor tells me that she's okay, I'm crazy. You're gonna have to commit me. We go into our next appointment with a geneticist, and she immediately breaks down, starts crying, and the doctor looks at her and says, why are you crying right now? Well, doc, you're about to tell me that everything's okay with my daughter, and I'm obviously crazy. So I don't know what to say. And immediately he responds with, actually, no, I'm not. I think I might know what's wrong with your daughter. Now, mind you, we have been in this appointment for all of about 5 minutes. And he's already responding with this. So this is blowing my mind, because as I'm starting to process that, hey, these doctors know what's going on and our daughter's okay, this doctor immediately sees something right away in a matter of moments. And I even asked him, I was like, Doc, explain to me how you can see something in a matter of minutes when other doctors have not been able to see anything with full-on evaluations. He asked me if I've ever heard of mitochondrial disease. Actually, I asked us both, which we both were like, never even heard of what that is. He explains that the mitochondria is what delivers the energy to the body and pretty much what keeps us alive. After the food is broken down inside your stomach, that's the vehicle that transports the energy to the rest of the body. When the mitochondria is deficient or dysfunctional, the body is straining to get energy. It's doing what it can to distribute the power as it can. To put it in another way, it's like trying to run your house on a AA battery. So the body is naturally going to distribute power to the areas that know it needs to maintain life as best as it can when the mitochondria is deficient. We are kind of taken aback by everything we're hearing about right now, and he also then says that the disease, while is non-curable, it's progressive, which means it's going to get worse, but at this time he thinks it can be managed in most cases, not all. We're kind of sitting there going, we're not really sure what we just heard, and we know it's not good and not sure how to process it. But the amazing thing about our doctor down there in New Orleans was that he instilled hope. He pushed on that, we had to be hopeful, because despite the fact that this is something that is very not known, to also explain that in doctor's training, typically at this time, doctors only got about 6 weeks of training regarding mitochondria. It's nuclear medicine, so there's not a whole lot of training that goes into it. So it's a lot of unknowns in the medical field. That's not very reassuring. But he's still instilling hope in us, saying that we can get through this, or we can at least figure something out and go push forward. He did warn us, though, at the time, whatever you do, do not go home and look this up on the internet. Of course we did. And we were terrified. At this time, this is in 2011, at this time, everything on the internet that you looked up, if you searched mitochondrial disease, there was not one positive thing you could find on there. Not one bit of hope. Everything on there was the worst case scenario. It was the worst thing that could ever happen to your child. Your child will be probably dead by the age of 4. My daughter's almost 2 at this point. And not enough known about it, so on and so forth. It's all bad news. We're like, great, instantly terrified. We literally lived in fear of the age of 4 for about a year and a half. I immediately turned to focusing on going to work, or focusing on being in work, because, as I said, a brand new staff sergeant here at Barksdale. I want to be a productive member and not be that guy, that NCO that is just always gone. Now, I'm also having to leave every 3 months to get for genetics for all these appointments down in New Orleans in order to find out what's going on. Every 3 months, we were going down for some kind of test to happen. She's being poked, prodded, tested, all kinds of different ways to figure out in order to get an actual diagnosis of officially being a mitochondrial disease. So she had 2 genetics tests done. She's had a muscle biopsy. I can't even tell you how many. She's had more surgeries than I've been to the doctor in my life. And at this point, she's not even 4 years old. Constantly in and out of the hospital. What we did learn in the process is that her GI system wasn't functioning very well either. Okay, so now we're learning about a disease that is this whole thing is about giving energy, or is unable to distribute energy to the rest of the body. And now one of the main systems that is responsible for generating the energy isn't working. Lots of process. In order to combat this, she had a G-tube put in her stomach. What that is it's an actual button that goes inside and directly connects into her stomach, and we use a pump to feed her, to push her medicine or her food through in order to get her caloric intake up to maintain energy, because she's not eating very much by mouth. This takes too much energy, and it's hard to break food down. She's also taking 14 different medicines twice daily. We put that into the feed as well, so we can push it down so it can actually get into the stomach so she can survive. This is part of the treatment stuff that our geneticists had prescribed for us, and it was actually helping us out. It was supplementing nutrients that the body couldn't naturally create. This worked great until her stomach started shutting down. It wasn't working very well, so we had to find another option. We ended up putting a J tube underneath it. So the J button does the same thing as the G, except that it connects directly to the duodenum, which is in the intestine. So it bypasses the stomach altogether, so we're able to give her feeds, and she can still get everything she needs through that route. Excuse me. Once again, what we ended up finding out about the disease is that Jolie's particular case for her diagnosis, she is the 12th reported case in the world. In the world. So we were getting I don't knows from before that, but now we just realized that the I don't knows were, even from those who were learning or that knew about this kind of medicine, even they didn't know, because there was nothing. She was literally going to be one of the baselines for how they determined it from going forward. As we come back in here, I'm going to work one day, and I'm coping with everything, because trying to be a good father, husband, NCO, all of the above, just be on the best all forefronts for everybody. And I think I'm doing a good job of coping, because I was focused on what mattered at the time. I focused on work, then I focused on the medicine, whatever was happening, and then come to realize I really wasn't. One day I was driving to work, and I was getting close to the office. I lost complete control of my emotions, out of nowhere. Had no idea what was coming on. It wasn't like I was feeling bad. Out of nowhere, I think a song came on, and all of a sudden, I broke down to the point where I was not functioning at all. And I was close to the office, so I went into the office immediately, and as soon as I parked in there, went into my section chief's office, and I shut the door, and I feel bad for him, because I went in there, he said, "What's wrong?" And I told him what was wrong. I have no idea what I'm saying, because I don't even know much about this disease. I'm learning about it as we go. full of emotion, have no idea what's happening, or I'm just so overloaded that I just lay it all out on his desk. Probably made no sense to him whatsoever. And I could tell because when I looked at him, he had this blank stare on his face, and he says, and I'll never forget it, "Jeremy, I have no idea what to say to you right now." I'll never forget that because honestly, it was the best thing he could have ever said to me. There is nothing that this Master Sergeant maintainer could have ever done to fix my daughter or fix my situation. I've got subject matter experts who can't fix what's going on right now. I wasn't expecting him to do anything, but the fact that he let me come in there and just kind of lay it out, let me take that, let some of that, he saw that I was bursting at the seams and pretty much just let me kind of vent off some of that pressure. He recommended that I go see the chaplain. He gave me the rest of the day off and go off from there. And immediately notified my chain of command. This was amazing because from that point forward, we were never alone. My squadron was always there. If we ever had an appointment or we ever in the hospital in the local area, my commander, my first sergeant, my supervisors, anybody who actually knew about it, because I didn't go around telling everybody about it at the time, they would stop by the hospital to see how we were doing. This made a world of a difference. We had our church, the church we started going to. We had members of our community coming to help us, and they didn't even know us all that well. Karen, Trey, Corey, these are just people who came out to do what they could to help us just because they wanted to. It was unreal. It was unreal that we were starting to see support from people we didn't really know. And it felt great. My wife and I broke down. We're like, we don't know what's going on right now, but at the same time though, we made a choice at that moment that we were not going to be victims of this disease. All this overflow of love and support was coming in. How could we? How could we just sit there and be, oh, poor us? It was at that point that helping others became ways to help us get through what was going on. And has ultimately brought us to where we are right now. So how are we doing now? So, as of right now, Jolie is about to be 6 years old. We didn't get past that fear of 4 until about the age of 5, until her 5th birthday for sure, but we did get past it. But now she's 6 years old, we're starting 1st grade in a matter of a few weeks. She goes to school 3 half days a week because that's all we can really push her through, but it's still something. We treat her symptoms aggressively just to make sure, because with this disease, any little thing can turn into something very big in a moment's notice. So anytime that something happens, we are immediately involved. She has an amazing big sister, Liliana, who loves to see her smile. She hates to see her hurt, and so whenever she does see her hurting, she immediately jumps in to try to get her smiling even for a little bit. Those two are honestly the reason why we have restored our faith. My wife, she went back to teaching, or she went back to work and is now teaching special education, using what we've learned through all of this to help other people as well. Additionally, we got involved as ambassadors for the United Mitochondrial Disease Foundation. In fact, last April, we put on the first ever Shreveport-Bossier City Energy for Life Walk. We raised $30,000, more than $30,000 for this, for cure research, and as well as we raised awareness for the area, helping people understand what mitochondrial disease actually is. Come on. We are a family that lives with mito now. We aren't, like I said, we made that choice that we weren't going to be victims. And so as she comes up here, you can actually see what it is to live with mito. Say hi to everybody. This is Jolie. She's grown immensely and really given us more than we've ever realized that we could give back. Mito has taught us a lot. I've learned the value of my wife completely, and mother's intuition is definitely no joke. I've learned the value of having balance between these two girls, because while one is suffering, the other one is too, but maybe in silence. It's not as much going on or as visible. We made that choice that we wouldn't be victims, and we now learn that we choose how this disease affects us. It's not the other way around. We are not going to be a statistic. Most importantly, I learned about the importance of spiritual readiness. How helping others really helps us get better as well. Our time here on earth is finite. I asked in the beginning what you would do, and I'm going to ask one more time. How would you react if someone you truly loved or a personal family member was suddenly diagnosed with terminal illness? What would you do? Thank you for letting us share our story.
Thank you, Sergeant Reyna.